In their follow-up to the two recent Scream movies and Ready or Not, Radio Silence brings us a new film to sink our teeth into with Abigail. A film that centers around a group of strangers who are hired to kidnap the daughter of a very wealthy and powerful man in hopes to extort him for $50 million. Well, little did they know,
We kidnapped a fucking vampire.
who was about to make their life a living hell, bringing all the carnage candy, literally chewing up the scenery, to the soothing sounds of Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. Let's talk about it. Let's start off with the pros. I'll say right off the bat, this cast was incredible. This ensemble played each of their roles to a T, and it was great seeing Melissa Barrera in the lead in this. After recent events with Scream, it was awesome to see her just totally crush this role. She played it perfectly with the level of strength, but also there's a softness to her that is really endearing and brings you in. She has a why. Her character has a big why for why she's doing this, and it really helps you pull for her throughout the movie.
You can call me Joey.
Do you have any kids?
I'll say Dan Stevens was also great in this. You may have recently seen him in the most recent MonsterVerse movie as Trapper, Godzilla Kong the New Empire, and I think I accidentally dressed a little bit like him today. Total coincidence. But he's great in this, and he brings that same level of charisma to this character, though not as likable, but completely hilarious. And speaking of hilarious, Kevin Durant plays the musclehead himbo so perfectly in this movie. It's just hilarious. He's a lovable doofus, and I definitely think he's going to be a fan favorite. And Catherine Newton, it's great to see her in this. I've been a fan of her since way back in Supernatural, when she was on that show back in the day, and it's been great to see her rise through the ranks, and her recent run with Lisa Frankenstein and Freaky, and even playing Cassie Lang in Ant-Man, so she's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's great to see her doing well, and she's great in this. She's hilarious, along with Kevin Durant and Angus Cloud of Euphoria fame, who has tragically since passed, but he was so funny in this movie. And William Catlett rounds out our group here as the sniper with a more serious demeanor, which he also plays well. And Giancarlo Esposito is also in this, and he just crushes it as per usual. You would not expect anything less from him. He's great in this, and there's some twists there that are pretty awesome. And the second pro I'll say about this movie, which I've already talked about, is it's hilarious. It's so funny. I did not expect to laugh this much during a vampire movie, and also still be scared. It has that balance perfectly, kind of like the original Scream had, where it's really funny, but it gets scary when it needs to be. It's not as scary as I maybe would have liked it to be, but the comedy here works. It never feels forced. A lot of the comedy comes from genuine reactions of like how you would probably act in such a horrific situation. I mean, you're being chased by a vampire, you know. And then lastly, my third pro here would be the set design. I loved the set in this. I love the big grand estate, the creepy old manor, you know, in classic vampire movie tradition. You know, you got the giant house with the cobwebs and the library and all the artifacts. It's great set design. It felt almost as if I was in Haunted Mansion at Disney World or something. I was just fully immersed in this set. And speaking of that, I'll say the vibe of the estate and even the color grading to a point felt very reminiscent of Ready or Not. Like if Radio Silence said that they actually took place in the same universe, I would completely believe that. In fact, I'm ready for the Melissa Barrera and Samara Weaving team-up movie. Make it happen, Radio Silence. Make it happen. So let's get into the cons. I don't really have too much negative to say about this movie. I really had a great time throughout it. But I will say there were points where the pacing felt a little off. Specifically just around characters' sense of urgency. You know, the urgency you would probably have if you were being chased around by a
Ballerina vampire.
There were just moments where it felt like they were getting their plan together or whatever. It felt very Scooby-Doo, you know, it's like, why are we splitting up? We should be sticking together, that kind of stuff. Which kind of leads into my next con, which was some of the dialogue and the writing felt a little, I don't know if forced is the word, but there were moments where there was like kind of expository dialogue dumps that felt like a little much. Like, movies tend, in my opinion, to try to over-explain things lately, and I felt like there were some moments in here that were like that, or some twists and turns towards the end in that third act that just felt like a jump. Like, Why did it take this long to get here? Why didn't this happen sooner? That kind of thing. So because of those reasons, I can't give it a full 10 out of 10. But I'll say, I mean, at the end of the day, I would give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. If you like vampire movies, you should go see it. I mean, speaking of that, it kind of feels like we're in a little vampire. No, not that little vampire, but we're kind of in a vampire renaissance a little bit with Renfield and The Last Voyage of the Demeter last year. We have Abigail out right now, and later this year we have Robert Eggers' Nosferatu remake. So it's pretty awesome as a person that has loved vampire movies forever. My dad's favorite movie when I was a kid was The Lost Boys. And I remember, I think the last time vampires were really scary to me was probably, 30 Days of Night? So I'm happy to see this vampire renaissance happening. Let me know what you thought of Abigail in the comments below. Until next time, be excellent to each other. And don't play with your food.
I like playing.